For more on President Trump's first week in office, we're joined by Washington Post national correspondent Philip Bump. Philip, good morning.
Good morning.
So the president issued a flurry of executive orders in remarkably unorthodox fashion, not many times consulting even with the cabinet agencies that are tasked with carrying this out. How enforceable are these?
Well, setting aside whether or not he talked to the cabinet officials, there's some question whether or not he talked to the legal counsel about the extent to which he can do these things. You know, a lot of these executive actions they took are essentially press releases and press events, right? You know, just sort of saying, here's broadly what I want to do. But some of them, like this ban on immigration, these are things which probably run against existing law, and it's not clear whether or not the homework was done to make sure this is something that can actually be put into force.
Is this basically a Muslim ban, Philip?
I mean, it is very clearly an attempt to crack down on people from scary countries, right? I mean, that's essentially what he said in 2015.
What he calls scary
exactly. Yes, he said yes, exactly right. Yes, in quotes. You know, this is an attempt to fulfill the promise to his base that he was going to keep people from places that made people nervous from coming to the United States. Again, it's not clear whether or not this can actually be enforced. The United States used to have a discriminatory policy against immigration from certain countries, which was overturned in 1965. It's not clear whether or not this is actually something that will withstand legal scrutiny.
It's also worth noting that he invoked the specter of 9/11. None of the hijackers, none of the countries that those hijackers were from are actually on the list of banned countries. Philip, he also had comments about Russian President Vladimir Putin saying good, bad, he's indifferent. He will be President Trump will be on a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin with Vice President Mike Pence in the room. What do we expect there? Can we expect anything?
That's right. It'll be interesting to hear what we hear back from that call, right? I mean, one of the things that's been under consideration is whether or not the United States will roll back some of the sanctions that were placed. Some of these sanctions obviously being placed against Russia for interfering allegedly in the election to Trump's benefit. You know, Trump has said, his team has said essentially that they want to reach a deal with Russia where they may roll back some of the sanctions in exchange for cutting back on nuclear weapons or working with them in the Islamic State. But it's pretty clear that Putin would rather be having this call with Trump than with Barack Obama.
But this is one place Trump is getting resistance from within his own party, though.
Right, that's exactly right. Yeah, there are not a lot of places where the Republicans on Capitol Hill are really butting heads with Donald Trump. Rolling back sanctions probably will be one of them.
What about Obamacare, though? We have reports in the Post and the Times that there's real fractious debate inside the Republican Party about what is going to happen if they repeal the law.
Well, I think the classic phrase about this is the dog that caught the car, right? I mean, the Republicans always said they wanted to repeal Obamacare. It was a great political talking point for them. But now you have this challenge where there are a lot of people who are very sick and who need good coverage, but it's very expensive coverage. How do you provide coverage for them while still making it affordable for everyone else? It's not clear that there's an easy answer to that question. It's very easy to say there is an answer, but they've had trouble figuring out what that answer might be.
As we saw, the president had his first face-to-face diplomatic meeting with the British Prime Minister. What came out of that meeting?
I mean, not a whole lot, which I think is probably good for Donald Trump, right? I mean, the bar is fairly low on him when it comes to diplomatic interactions. The fact that there wasn't a big blow-up, I think, is about as good as it could have gone.
Meanwhile, Mexico, relations with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto. It has been a rocky week for U.S.-Mexico relations. Are we going to be in a trade war with Mexico?
It seems possible. I mean, you know, one of the things that's interesting, obviously, there's this issue with the wall, which I don't think anyone really thinks there's much leverage over Mexico in terms of getting them to pay for this wall, assuming the wall ever gets built. But the issue of NAFTA, I think, is a bigger deal. Trump has been very adamant about NAFTA. There's a lot of political support to renegotiate NAFTA, but I don't know that this sort of, you know, this bluster is going to get the job done. The United States is a massive economic power. That, I think, is stronger leverage than what Donald Trump says about Mexico.
All right. Philip Bump, thanks very much. Tomorrow morning on Face the Nation here on CBS, John Dickerson's guests will include Senator John McCain, Republican from Arizona, and Minnesota Democratic Representative Keith Ellison.